Breach detected in Sector 12. Blared the alert siren. Captain John Shaw sprang into action, abandoning his coffee as he raced to the operations center. As leader of the Earth Defense Alliance's interdimensional monitoring team, it was his duty to coordinate the response every time those damn Zendrians popped into our dimension. "Talk to me. What have we got?" barked Shaw as he strode into the room. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Vine, pointed to the holographic display hovering over the central console. "The breach opened 2 minutes ago just outside Mars orbit. One Zendrian cruiser came through, but the portal has already collapsed behind them." Shaw studied the display grimly. The sleek alien vessel was undoubtedly packed with troops and weapons, ready to raid Mars colony or make a run at Earth itself. This was the 7th such incursion this month. Ever since the Zendrians had discovered interdimensional technology 2 years ago, they've been using it to launch surprise attacks in their bid to conquer humanity. Their portals allowed them to strike anywhere, anytime, without warning, but Earth had a secret weapon, intel from friendly dimensions. "Interdimensional data coming in now, Captain," reported Vine. Streams of images, readings, and reports flooded the screens. Intelligence gathered covertly from alternate timelines where Earth maintained a covert presence. This enabled them to detect coming Zendrian attacks by spotting the signs as the portals opened in those other worlds. It was never enough to fully predict when or where the Zendrians would strike here, but it gave Earth's defenders a critical edge. "Analyzing data now," said Shaw, inputting commands on the console. "There's a 68% chance they'll make a run at Mars first. But if we move fast, I think we can cut them off before they get there. Prep all planetary defense grids and ready 2 squadrons of interceptors, full combat load." Vine relayed the order swiftly. Around the world, missiles, lasers, railguns, and plasma cannons rotated into firing positions while sleek fighters streaked into the sky. The counter-invasion force assembled rapidly in orbit, poised to confirm. "Sir, the cruiser is accelerating out of Mars orbit, vectoring towards Earth," reported an analyst. "No sign of ground troops or landing craft yet." Shaw nodded. "They're hoping to take out our grid control centers to enable an invasion. But we're going to surprise them instead. Move all forces to intercept." The E-Day ships and platforms swiftly changed course, converging above the new Mars Ocean, where the Zendrian ship would exit Mars orbit. As the cruiser coasted out from behind the red planet, utterly unaware, the trap was sprung. 100 missiles burst from concealment in Earth's orbit, streaking towards the target. Plasma beams, railgun slugs, and rapid-fire mass driver rounds followed behind. The Zendrian ship immediately returned fire, but they were caught completely off guard. Explosions battered the alien hull as layers of defensive screens were overwhelmed. Their return fire took out a few human interceptors, but sheer weight of numbers carried the day. One final salvo penetrated to strike directly on the cruiser's exposed engineering section. Abruptly, the vessel lost power and momentum, venting debris and atmosphere as it spun out of control. "Target is disabled, but largely intact, Captain," reported Vine. "Your orders?" "Move our forces into boarding range," Shaw replied. "Let's see what new intel this ship might provide, once we access their databanks and interrogate any survivors." "Yes, sir," she replied enthusiastically. The thought of payback and new intelligence to turn against the Zendrians put an extra spring in every human defender's step. Within minutes, the human ships had surrounded the stricken Zendrian cruiser, keeping weapons trained on any signs of resistance. Assault shuttles quickly latched onto multiple airlocks across the alien hull. Squads of elite Marines swarmed aboard, sweeping each passageway and compartment with ruthless precision. "Minimal resistance so far, Captain," reported Staff Sergeant Hendricks over the comlink. "Looks like we took them completely by surprise. Their databank should still be largely intact." "Excellent work, Sergeant," Shaw replied. "Download every byte of data you can access. Our cryptographers may be able to pull new portal frequencies, attack plans, or even fleet dispositions from it. And take as many prisoners as possible for interrogation." "With pleasure, sir," Hendricks responded. "These bastards have been trying to conquer humanity for long enough. Time for some payback and maybe finally a chance to take this fight to their home dimension." Shaw signed off with satisfaction. Infinite possibilities awaited if they could finally pinpoint the Zendrian's origin dimension and get access through an invasion portal. Turning the tables at last and catching them unprepared on their own home turf would be sweet indeed. Over the next several hours, the assault teams swept the entire cruiser. Dozens of dazed Zendrian survivors were rounded up to face questioning. The databanks and navigational computers were downloaded and transmitted back to ETA headquarters for thorough analysis. Finally, Shaw received the report he'd been hoping for. "Captain, this is Lieutenant Rogers down in cryptography. We've extracted coordinates and portal frequencies for the Zendrian Central Fleet Base back in their home dimension. This was a gold mine." "Outstanding news, Lieutenant," Shaw exclaimed. "Send all the data immediately to Directorate Command so they can plan our counterattack." "Way ahead of you, sir," Rogers replied excitedly. "Those Zendrian bastards have terrorized us for far too long. It's about time we return the favor." Shaw leaned back with a smile. This was the break they desperately needed, proof the relentless skirmishes were finally paying dividends. Soon, they'd have enough intelligence for an all-out invasion of the Zendrian's dimension. He savored that thought. Ever since that first shocking attack 2 years ago, hastily thrown together defenses had barely withstood the Zendrian onslaughts. It had been a desperate battle for survival each time the dimensional portals opened unexpectedly. Billions had died across hundreds of cities and colonies as the aliens relentlessly probed for a human weakness. But today's success meant they were no longer helpless victims. Now at last Earth could take its vengeance to the Zendrians directly and ensure no more innocent lives were lost. Shaw muttered a silent ode of thanks to all the brave souls whose sacrifices had enabled this pivotal triumph. A few hours later, orders came down from Earth Directorate Command. The intelligence haul from the ruined Zendrian cruiser had been analyzed and Earth's response was set in motion. As soon as sufficient invasion forces could be assembled, the portal would open for a direct strike on the Zendrian Central Fleet Base. Gazing out his office viewport at the Earth turning serenely below, Shaw smiled in anticipation. Too long had they suffered these unprovoked assaults. But soon humanity would teach the Zendrians the grave error made in assaulting the unbreakable spirit and determination of mankind. Our destiny was now to carry the fight back through those portals, no matter how many dimensions we had to breach. Until the Zendrian threat was utterly annihilated,